What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Who Gives A Dram. It's another week, everybody. Sorry I missed a week, but I had some stuff I had to take care of, being an adult. Even though sometimes I don't feel like an adult, but we're back here. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of Who Gives A Dram. I'm your host, Connor. And if you're not already, follow the podcast on Instagram at Who Gives A Dram. Make sure you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, yada, yada, yada. And also, this podcast is brought to you by my new multimedia platform / website, The Grapevine Media, with a bunch of my buddies there. Make sure you check out the podcast, or not the podcast, the website, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. Make sure you check it out there and check out all the podcasts that I'm teaming with, all my buddies who are making content, who are passionate about it just like me. Anyways, that's all the way. What's up, everybody? What's going on? It has been a very, very long 2 weeks away from the podcast, just about. It's felt like a year. I had no intention of taking a week off with the podcast because it sounds like it's hard work. It's just recording and drinking whiskey. But, some stuff happened that I had to take care of. I had to take my mind away from whiskey for a bit, and I had to focus on a few important things. And, it happens to all of us. We all have priorities in our life, and although I'm very passionate about whiskey, and although I love whiskey, I love the podcast, I love all this, there's things that come first, and there's just things that you have to handle. And over the past few weeks, I've had stuff I've had to handle, but I'm back here now. I'm excited to be recording. I'm excited to be back, and there's a lot that's happened since the last time we've talked. I think the last time we talked, I was drinking Johnny Walker Black, which I very much enjoyed, and I forgot what was happening around that time, but a lot of things in the world have happened since then. But I have chose my whiskey for this week. I was going through my whiskey cabinet, which is just off to my right, and I was looking through the cabinet, and I was thinking, what am I going to drink this week? I mean, it's it's the end of February. There's nothing special's happening. There's not like anything I can center a whiskey around in terms of a holiday or a time of year or something like that. So I decided to start the Irish kickoff early. We're doing an Irish kickoff, an Irish takeover here on Who Gives a Dram for St. Patrick's Day. So I'm going to be doing a few Irish whiskeys for the next few weeks, and we're going to be reviewing them. We're going to be drinking them. We're going to be learning about them. And although I don't really gravitate towards Irish whiskey, I've always loved Irish whiskey. It's very light. It's very florally and citrusy. It's usually not above 80%. 40%, 80 proof. But what I got here today is a Bushmills 16 year that again is 40%. Aged in 3 woods, a single malt Irish whiskey, the original single malt Irish whiskey from the oldest distillery in the world, Bushmills, founded in 1608, supposedly. I've heard that there's some controversy surrounding when Bushmills really started, but they say 1608, so that's what we had to go with. The Bushmills 16 year has been matured in 3 woods. It's aged in, I'm gonna butcher this and I'm gonna sound like an idiot. Aged in Oloroso sherry, bourbon, and port wine casks for a combination of rich fruitiness and malty nuttiness. So, if you watch the podcast, if you're a fan of Who Gives a Dram, you know that there's not many things that grind my gears more than someone who says that their bourbon tastes like a 13-day-old piece of multigrain bread. Just bothers me. I don't think there's that much to it. However, I know there are specific notes, and what I'm interested to see is how an Irish when you're analyzing it, tastes different than a bourbon, than a scotch, than a rye. And I mean, I know the difference, but it's only really when I'm recording this podcast is when it's like when I'm really, really analyzing it and I'm trying to sound smarter than I actually am. But I am going to actually Google. I've got the microphone right in the way of where my laptop is. Oloroso Sherry Cask. Because I want to know what that is. Whiskey in Oloroso Sherry Casks. The Oloroso Sherry has its origins in the southwest of Spain. It is a fortified wine with 17 to 22% ABV and a sugar content of 0 to 5 grams per liter. Is that a lot? I don't know. Let's read on. With these stats, the Oloroso is defined as a dry wine, so that probably means it's not sweet. But many of the sherry blenders sweeten the wine to make it more luscious and syrup-like. Within the wine connoisseurs, the Oloroso is handled as a very nutty sherry with dark flavors. Okay, so lots of nut. The Oloroso's got lots of nut, but it's also got some sweetness to it. Okay, I don't want to read this much. Effect on the taste. Whiskeys matured in Oloroso casks are usually taking up the dark flavors and the nuttiness. So that's probably why it said a malty nuttiness right there on the bottle. The dark flavors manifest in taste of figs, raisins, and many more fruits. So that's kind of like a Midwinter Night's Dram, because that was very like plummy, dark fruit, that type of vibe to it. We're going to revisit that on the podcast. I still have some left. I'm looking at it right now. I'm nervous to finish it because I know I'm probably never going to find it again. Most of the whiskey connoisseurs also find the Oloroso matured whiskeys more oily and smooth than other whiskeys. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. So, that's what Oloroso Sherry is, for those who didn't know. But let's take a look at this. So what's happened in the world since the last time I've been here? A big deal in my mind, as you can see on the podcast, I have taken a heavy amount of this Irish whiskey. I do like this Bushmills 16 very much. It is personally one of my favorite Irishes I've had, but I've never analyzed it. So, the Snyder Cut trailer came out, the new one, and I don't know if everyone who's listening or watching on YouTube are fans of superhero movies, comic book stuff like that, but it's a big deal to me because the original Justice League was terrible, and it was so bad. I actually watched it last night, dude, and it gets worse over time. It's the exact opposite of a whiskey. Justice League is the exact opposite of a whiskey. It gets very much worse over time. So the fact that they're making this Zack Snyder cut is the Oloroso Sherry Cask that you're dumping a shitty whiskey into to make it good. But I'm very excited for the movie. I've been a Justice League fan since I was very, very little. I've grown up with superheroes, both Marvel and DC, and that movie is going to be fantastic. I cannot wait. So that trailer came out. I was pumped for it. We reviewed it on my other podcast, Life in the Basement. We being me and my brother. If you want to go check out that podcast, go ahead, at LITP Podcast on Instagram. But other than that, not a whole lot has happened. People are still wearing masks. People are still, scared of this COVID thing. Joe Biden is still president. That's really it. I mean, what else has really happened? The GameStop stock is still, that's not really a story anymore. So that's almost like that never happened. The Celtics stink. From what I hear, the Celtics are very bad right now. I think they're below 500 as of this recording. So that's not good. That's not good at all. But if you want some Celtics coverage, go check out my boy Matt's podcast, TMD Podcast. That's where you can get the in-depth Celtics talk. I don't mess with that stuff. Once baseball season comes around, because I played baseball, I'll hit on the Red Sox a bit, but basketball is not really my game, even though, and I think this might be on record, I might have mentioned this on the podcast before, I was the captain of my undefeated middle school basketball team. I mean, did I average 4 points a game? Yes. Was I 5'0" in middle school? Yes. But that's neither here nor there. I was the captain. And that will always be etched in history, the fact that I was the captain. Along with two other guys that were way better than me and actually played basketball past middle school. But again, neither here nor there. I was the captain. But yeah, let's start drinking this whiskey because I don't want to wait. Now, this is going to be a very interesting tasting because, full disclosure, I haven't been drinking whiskey. I haven't been drinking at all. Matter of fact, I've been so caught up in these things that I've had to take care of that I kind of just decided to take a break off drinking for a bit. So this is going to be very interesting to me. I'm very intrigued to see how this is going to affect my palate in terms of what flavors I get. So open up the bottle. We're going to pour a little bit in. We'll keep it outside of the box for now. And we're going to let it sit for a second. Just going to let it sit there. Little update on my podcast studio. There has been no update. I planned on this thing being done, essentially. So that way I can record videos all along the room, because what you're looking at right now on the podcast is essentially what the amount of the room that's done. Behind the camera is, I'm looking at an old bed spring. I'm looking at a big painting I got to hang up. I'm looking at some chairs. I'm looking at a Tim Tebow jersey. Oh, speaking about Tim Tebow, I am wearing the new Whiskey Philosophy merch. They sent me a shirt. My buddies Josh and Matt over at Whiskey Philosophy Podcast just launched a very, very nice merch store that you can check out by following them on Instagram at Whiskey Philosophy Podcast. Or maybe it's just at Whiskey Philosophy. I don't know. I butchered that. Sorry, guys. But they were kind enough. They hit me up, and they sent me this awesome Whiskey Philosophy shirt. And as you can tell, it hugs the arms. That's always a solid, because Josh and Matt need shirts that hug their arms because A, they're old, B, they have no muscle because they're old. So they need that extra tightness around the arms in their t-shirts. But shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for the shirt. I love rocking it. I'm going to be rocking it with pride, and hopefully soon. I'm still working out logistics. I'm still kind of deciding how I want to do it, but I will be releasing some limited edition drops of Who Gives a Dram merch, one at a time. And I just got to figure out the best way to do it. So that's going to be a thing. So let's get into this whiskey now. The thing about analyzing color is that they honestly all look the same. Irish whiskeys tend to be a little bit lighter in color, but they all kind of look the same to me. Bronze, copper, orange hues, reddish hues to them. I would guess this maybe has a bit more of an orange look to it, but I could just be seeing that because I said the word orange and now I'm thinking the word orange. I can already smell it. My senses are going to be so high to this whiskey because I haven't been drinking. So let's see what we smell. Oh my goodness, that is jumping out. That is jumping out like it's nothing. The only whiskey I've had in the past 2 weeks is over the weekends. My brother and I went to a whiskey store, or it's a package store, but they specialize in single barrels. So me and my brother go there. I go there a lot. I brought my brother there for the first time. and they have a single barrel for Makers. They have a Makers Mark single barrel right now that I think clocks in a little under 100 proof. And they gave Kale and I a sample of it. And I kind of took it without realizing that I haven't had whiskey in a long time. So it really hit me pretty hard in terms of the initial taste. And I looked at my brother. I was like, dude, that's the first time I've had whiskey in like 2 weeks. So I think it's the longest I've gone without drinking whiskey since I've started becoming obsessed with whiskey. So, but it's good. It's good to take a break. If you need a break, it's good to take a break. So the smell that I get a lot of fruit. I get a lot of fruit from this Bushmills 16. But then I get a little hint of that. I do actually smell that like nutty woodness, earthiness. It smells great. It smells very light. It's different than what I've been drinking or what I was drinking before. I took my little hiatus, which was a lot of higher proofed bourbons, which are just smelling like wood. Or I was drinking a lot of scotch, so Isla Scotch. So I was drinking like Talisker Storm and Ardbeg and all that stuff, Lafroig, and that smoky peatiness to that. This is the exact opposite end of the spectrum. This is very light and florally, but it does have that hint of earthy, nutty undertones to it is the correct way, because it's not at the forefront, but it's there. So we're going to pull up, let's see here. We're going to pull up the tasting notes as to what I'm supposed to taste, and then we're going to see if I actually taste it. So I got it right here. So first, okay, I won't read it yet. This is my first sip of whiskey in a long time. I'm sharing it with you guys. So cheers, Shlanta. A great whiskey to kick off Irish Week. Or not Irish Week, the Irish takeover here on Who Gives a Dram. So it's so light. Irish whiskey can be dangerous, and I don't think I've told my Irish whiskey story from last St. Patrick's Day on the podcast yet. I'm going to save that for the St. Patrick's Day episode. I've already got my whiskey planned. I've already got the whole episode planned. So I'll save that story for that episode, but let's just put it this way. The fact that Irish whiskey is so light and easy to drink makes it very dangerous. So from this, I get a lot of sweetness. Not a long finish at all. Not long at all. Again, not a bad thing, but don't get a lot of complex notes to it. Some sweetness, a little bit of caramel, and fruit, like a caramel dipped apple, I guess. I don't actually taste that, but that is a fruit dipped in caramel. So like a fruity caramel taste to it. I gotta see if I get that nuttiness, because I'm supposed to get it, according to the bottle. And what is the tasting note supposed to be? Aged for a minimum of 16 years in a combination of Oloroso sherry and bourbon seasoned casks, then finished for several months in port wine barrels. That's the sweetness. Bushmills 16-year-old is a unique maturation which imparts distinct notes of juicy fruits, not just regular fruits, juicy fruits, nuts and spice, as well as a hint of ruby redness. So almonds, honey, port, and vanilla. So yeah, a lot of sweetness. I don't really get the nuts. Yeah, I get a lot of sweetness. I get a lot of that port wine barrel aged cask. So I would say that I don't get what I'm supposed to get. I just don't. I don't get almonds. I don't get nuts. I don't get earthy. I get a little bit of that on the nose. But on the taste, no. That being said, this is a very good whiskey. I don't want that to be I don't want that to be messed with. This is a very good whiskey. The only problem I have with this whiskey is the price. So this goes for anywheres. I've seen it as low as $115. I've seen it as high as $150. I did not buy this bottle. It was given to me as a gift. So maybe that's what makes it taste a bit better to me, is the fact that I didn't have to drop that much money. And that's going to play a significant part on how I'm going to ultimately rate this Irish whiskey, because for something that's 40% alcohol, that's 80 proof, I would never pay that much money for. Bushmills is great, don't get me wrong. I love Bushmills. However, for that price point, man, I mean, it's hard to have a whiskey, to pay that much for a whiskey, no matter how good it is. I mean, most fantastic bourbons, you're not paying that much money for. Like, I'm gonna be real. I'd rather have a dram of Blanton's for MSRP around $60. I'd rather have a dram of, what am I looking at? Colonel E.H. Taylor. 2 whiskeys that I've reviewed on the podcast here. I'd rather have those drams than this. But for an Irish, I mean, this is incredibly smooth. It's incredibly good. It's one of the better Irish whiskeys I've had. But for price alone, I'm going to say this is a 7.5. That is for price alone. The taste is better than that, but the price has to come into play when you're talking about whiskeys that you're going to go out and buy. So would I recommend you add this to your whiskey collection? I would. But only if you're looking for exactly what this whiskey is offering. I would not go out of my way to pay the amount of money that most retailers are asking for this bottle, even though it's very good. If you can find a good deal with this Bushmills 16, then definitely get it. I mean, it's definitely worth it. You're definitely going to like it, and you're definitely going to finish it. I don't know if I'm going to go out and buy this once it's gone. So I've had this bottle for well over 6 months now, and I have about a quarter left, and I'm really milking it because I do want to enjoy this, but I'm not going to pay that much money. So 7.5, the Who Gives a Dram scale, Bushmills 16 year. And with that, we are going to conclude another episode. So I just want to say again, thank you to everybody who supports the podcast. It means the world to me. Make sure you're subscribing on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That helps the podcast. That helps me reach more people, and it helps this podcast grow. I have big plans for this thing, so I want it to grow exponentially as it has been. Another thing, I'm pretty close to 1,000 followers on Instagram. So once I hit that 1,000 follower mark, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, but I'm going to do something. I'm going to do a giveaway. I'm going to do I don't know yet. So if you have any ideas of what I should do, leave a comment down below. If you're watching on YouTube, shoot me a DM on Instagram if you have some ideas as to what I should do for that 1,000 follower event. Yeah, everyone who follows me on Instagram, thank you. It's a great way to network and socialize within the whiskey community. And if you're not following me on Instagram, go ahead, at Who Gives a Dram. I shamelessly plug my Instagram multiple times an episode because it's the best way to really get the content. So, as always, I'm going to let my brother Nick Bossy play me out. Pretty New Diamond, streaming on Spotify and Apple Music, and follow his Instagram at Nick Bossy Music. And with that, I am going to finish this dram, and I'm going to head out for the night. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'll catch y'all next week. Take care.
Up in New England, that girl sure loved me. We got together and brought things to life. So I did buy her a pretty new diamond, and asked that sweet woman if she'd be my wife. Kind of feeling love songs are made of, with that sweet woman spend the rest of my life. Before she came along, I was hurting, but at the end of my tunnel I saw no light. Broke my heart and I can't keep going. Guess I'll just sit here and get drunk tonight. Vows they meant nothing and she ran to a stranger, and with Johnny Walker I'm passing my time. I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing, I'm so lonesome I could cry. Gave me back that pretty new diamond and broke my heart a second time. But I got the last laugh when I pawned off her ring, 'cause I bought me a dime bag and a case of Coors Light. And I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing, I'm so lonesome I could cry. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing, I'm so lonesome I could